Hello and welcome back to Sanford Days. Today we're continuing development on Slimescantjump in Godot, and I'm having a good time again because I found another thing I can't do. Most of the game hasn't required me to go back to tutorials for a while because I had a good grasp of the fundamentals that I was using. However, I tried to add an enemy, and I guess I didn't pay very good attention in the tutorials I saw because I struggled for a while. My goal was to add crab-like enemies that you could jump on the heads of to navigate tough terrain, but if you got hit by them directly on the sides, you die. Spoiler, had I been paying more attention to the Brackey's tutorial on enemies, I would have figured out this entire thing a lot quicker, but instead we're just going to go through my entire process of how I did it. So I started looking around with the map, and I figured by the time you got to this point, there should be a new mechanic introduced, because I try to introduce a new type of blob or something every little while here to keep the game fresh. Suddenly I decided it had to be a crab, and I announced such to my Discord, getting positive affirmation that it's a good idea. We 100% made this duck. I promise it's related, just not in this video. Despite getting sidetracked, I got right to work afterwards, making a little crab-esque creature in Pixelrama. Initially, it kinda looked like it danced rather than walked, but I think I figured it out in later versions. I commissioned that music a long time ago. It was totally unrelated to the project, but I really just wanted to get it in somewhere. Anyway, after getting the base idea for the crab model down, I decided to revisit it to make it more gelatinous and give it a cube top hat. That way you know which way it's going to propel you, assuming you hit the cube slime head top thing. If you've seen my other videos, you know that blue means it propels you downwards, and I did not think of that while I was creating this crab spray, and it is not intentional to throw you into its own mouth, so that will have to change. But with a few tweaks, I was satisfied with the way it looked, and I could see this in my game world, so I decided to import it into Godot, adding on the frames, and I'm sure you already know how to do this. If you don't, check out Brackey's tutorial. I cannot stress that tutorial enough. In fact, I'm about to use it to fix my problems in a moment. My problems stem from the fact that I thought I could give this thing two separate collision shapes, one that would kill you and one that would propel you into the air, not realizing that Area 2D is the parent, meaning that both of the collision shapes are going to share the same attributes, assuming that I use a node like body entered. I knew what I wanted to do was possible, but for some reason I couldn't wrap my head around what I was doing and why it wasn't working. I didn't really understand the parent-child dilemma that I was having. So I decided to fix my coloration issue so you could tell that the crab was going to project you into the air and not downwards, and while I was doing that I also decided to ask ChatGPT for an example of how to do this thing correctly. It didn't take me very long to realize that ChatGPT's way of thinking this through is a lot different than the way that I would, so then I decided to revisit Brackey's amazing tutorial and see if there's anything I missed when it came to making an enemy, and sure enough...
At the top here, I'll add in a new scene. I'm gonna select the kill zone. And now all we need to do is give this a collider.
I had gotten this far in developing this game and not remembering that you can totally just link other scenes inside of scenes. That way, you can just chain link those things together. This was a serious facepalm moment because the entire way the game is built is with scenes inside of scenes, but for some reason I just could not wrap my head around this concept. Once I had that oh duh moment, I was able to set up some raycasts to detect collision on the left and right, as well as my previous physics for slime blob, specifically the green slime blob. Splime. I like that. Splime sound cool. I also linked the scene of the death crab box to the bottom of the crab. That way every time you know you walk into the bottom of the crab, you die. It seems like there's a lot of things on the screen right now, but it's really not that complicated, I swear. A huge percentage of this is just from how Brackey lays out how to do basic movement, and a lot of the rest of it is how I figured out to use particle effects. If you ever want a tutorial on something of how to initiate particle effects the way I do into your characters, just let me know and I'll be happy to do that. It's super simple. Although I'm kind of avoiding tutorials because I myself am a novice, and by giving you my information, I may be teaching you how to do something less than awesome. But with all of that done, I thought I had the death crabs ready, and it looks like I'm dying indefinitely. Can anyone guess what I did wrong? I'll tell you. I forgot to change the death zone to only detect the player body, so it was detecting every body, including that of the crab, meaning that when the crab exists, everyone dies. Forever. Luckily enough, this is an easy fix. I just had to add a line specifying that only to trigger this effect if the body equals player body. With that said, the only things that I really had to work on from there was working on the collision areas to make sure that you couldn't accidentally jump through the bounce box and die, or to make sure that you weren't bouncing when you should be dying. Be sure to follow so you don't get a slime crab infestation. As always, this has been Sanford Days. I'm Course, and I get everywhere. Bye-bye now. I love cheese.